Hi, I'm Nicole and I have a degree in environmental studies and economics, and we are on Vlogmas day 21. Today we are going to be talking about my experience using a menstrual cup for 3 years. So if you like content about sustainable living, veganism, and minimalism, then please consider hitting the red subscribe button. So for those of you who don't know what a menstrual cup is, it is essentially a cup that you use during your menstrual cycle, and you insert it into your vagina so that it is able to capture the blood and essentially stop blood from getting onto your clothes. In case you aren't able to tell, we're going to be very, very generous with the word vagina, menstruation, blood, and insertion in this video. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I totally understand. You can probably skip this one and feel free to watch one of my other many videos. So usually menstrual cups are made of latex or silicone, and essentially they are used during your period. I have been using mine since around August of 2017, so it's been over 3 years actually that I've been using it every single month for my period, and it's amazing. I love it so much. I feel like I haven't really talked about them to anyone for a while just because it's so part of my normal routine now. I don't really think about it much, but when I actually got to planning this video, I just got so excited all over again. Menstrual cups are just fantastic, life-changing. I honestly think that they are the future. I really don't like tampons, and I'm going to be actually after this filming a video about why tampons are awful for your health, the environment, and just, women in general. So let me share with you just a little bit of background on my menstrual history. So basically, I got my period when I was 13? I was either 12 or 13 when I got it. I know that I was in 7th grade and I was watching a horror movie with my sister and her boyfriend, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I got my period, finally, it happened. And yeah, comment down below if you were one of those girls that was very excited and like anticipating getting your period, or were you like, no, please, I don't want it to happen? Because I, for one, was like, oh my gosh, I'm a woman now. I was always very excited to grow up when I was a kid. Basically, that summer, I ended up having to kind of get used to tampons quickly because I was at the beach both in July and August that summer when I was on my period. So I love the water, and I was like, there's no way I'm not going in the water because of my freaking period. So I basically had to learn, and it was not fun. I mean, it did not really go well, but I was just trying to make it happen. And I know that it kind of got easier after that. Like after I had those 2 months where I did it, then it was fine. And eventually I kind of started getting quite bad cramps. Like they weren't debilitating or anything, but I definitely had cramps during my period. And, I didn't really think much of it. I thought, this is just what it is. Like there's not really any other options. And then, fast forward years and years to the point where, I'm in college. I'm going into my junior year, and I start learning a lot about sustainability, and I'm getting my degree in sustainability, but I also am very much interested in natural living and just simple living, getting rid of excess possessions. And I learned about menstrual cups, and I'm immediately very fascinated. And the first thing that I thought was, isn't it going to spill inside me when I when I lay down? And no, and if you're thinking that is not what happens. It's just not the way that our pelvis is positioned, so that won't happen. Don't worry about that. And I was just so fascinated, and just did a bunch of research. I watched a bunch of videos, and I'm gonna try to find the video that was really helpful to me. It's just a video where a lady's showing how to insert them, and she uses a little champagne glass to demonstrate and get the seal. And I honestly feel like, because when you first get a menstrual cup, you can expect the first couple cycles for it to be sort of an adjustment period where you're still trying to figure out how to properly insert it and get the seal right so that it doesn't leak. I was able to get it down in my first, you know, cycle of using it because I had done all that research, and I think that that lady's video really helped me conceptualize what I was supposed to do and how it's supposed to feel and be when it's in properly. So I hope I can find it. I will link it down below. But basically, I was really in it for the sustainability. I mean, literally 12 billion pads and 7 billion tampons are disposed of every single year. If we're talking pads, that is more than the world population, and with tampons, it's close. It's really close to the world. There's about 7.5 billion people on the planet. 7 billion tampons a year. So staggering, massive amount of waste. And so when I invested in a menstrual cup, I was super excited, but what really surprised me was that not only was it about the sustainability, I felt so empowered when I got a menstrual cup. And I want to try to explain why. I think that part of it was knowing that I will never, ever have to run out of my house, you know, on some evening to go to CVS and pay an exuberant amount of money on something that is a female necessity. Tampons are so expensive, and they are primarily, the vast majority of tampon companies are run by men. And despite the fact that they are a female necessity, they are still taxed. You still have to pay sales tax on tampons in 35 states, okay? And I'm so serious. I've heard this before, but I can't help but think that it's true, that if men were the ones that needed pads and tampons, they would be cheaper and they would not be taxed. So I was happy to give my money to one company for 35 bucks, and I was set for years. That's a thing. These menstrual cups, they last for years. I still have the one that I got over 3 years ago. It's fine. No signs of needing a new one. Another thing is that I just felt free from my period. Like, oh my gosh, when you have tampons, you have to change them like every 6 hours max, because there's actually the potential to die from putting in a tampon because of something called toxic shock syndrome that kills women every single year, because essentially a type of bacteria becomes mixed with the bacteria in your vagina and it becomes toxic. You know, when something is inserted into your vagina, it very easily goes into your bloodstream. So you have to be careful. Toxic shock syndrome is not something to mess around with. So it's important to be waiting like 6 to 8 hours max with one tampon in. And it made me uncomfortable that something that I was using every single month for 5 days minimum could potentially kill me if I didn't deal with it properly. And so the menstrual cup, on the other hand, you can insert it and forget it for 12 hours. 12 hours, that means you only need to change it twice a day. And if you go a little bit longer, nothing will happen to you. It might just get full and start leaking a little bit. So it's much safer in that respect, and you can do everything while you have that menstrual cup in. You can run, bike, do yoga, sleep, play, everything except sex. If you're having sex, you need to take it out. I don't know about you. I don't know if I was just always inserting tampons wrong, but I had an issue with peeing when I had a tampon in. I would always have to take it out because I would always get pee on the tampon. I love having a menstrual cup and not having to worry about that ever. The cup gets full. When it gets full, I empty it and that's it. It's definitely a more personal experience. That's another thing, is that, you know, you do have to kind of go up in there in order to insert it, and you also have to go up in there to remove it. And, you know, when you pull it out, there's a little cup of blood. And so, you know, I usually just pour it right into the toilet, and then I go to the sink and rinse it. I have a special menstrual cup wash that I use, and it works just fine. In the beginning of, when I first take it out, I will boil it for 5 minutes, and at the end of the cycle, I will boil it for 5 minutes and then put it away, just to disinfect everything and make sure that it's safe when I put it away. What's really interesting is that, you know how I mentioned I had some cramps earlier on in my period? Well, when I switched to a menstrual cup, my cramps actually significantly reduced and my period actually became lighter. So what I think this part of this has to do with is the fact that tampons, they absorb. And so not only are they absorbing the blood, but they are also absorbing your vaginal fluid. And sometimes this can disrupt the good bacteria in your vagina, as well as sometimes knock the pH out of balance, which can lead to infections and stuff like that. Whereas the menstrual cup just sits and it collects and everything is sort of balanced. And I think that that has had a real impact on the amount of cramps that I have, as well as allowed me to get into a more regular light flow. And yes, it is more of a personal experience changing the menstrual cup and dealing with it, but honestly, it again has tied back to the empowerment. I feel empowered that I'm that connected with my body and my cycle, and that I myself am able to have basically created this self-sustaining process, that I have the one thing that I need to have my menstrual cycle each month, and I don't need to give anyone else any more money to deal with it. I can deal with it myself. And it's a very personal experience with your body, and it's difficult for me to put into words, but it is extremely empowering, and it just makes you feel like you're taking care of yourself and really giving yourself what you need. So what do you think? Are you interested in trying a menstrual cup? Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about more why tampons are so toxic, so be sure you stay tuned for that. I had a lovely time talking about this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.